The transport in Azerbaijan involves air traffic, waterways and railroads. All transportation services in Azerbaijan except for oil and gas pipelines are regulated by the Ministry of Transportation of Azerbaijan Republic. For Soviet transportation, see Transport in the Soviet Union. Railways. There are 2,932 kilometers of rail tracks, out of which only 2,117 kilometers are in common carrier service and 810 kilometers are industrial lines. 240 kilometers of rail tracks were occupied by Armenia between 1988 and 1994, and due to Armenian occupation, the railway link between Nakhichevan and Azerbaijan proper has been broken since 1991. Of the 2,932 kilometers of rail tracks, 72% are 2,117 kilometers a single track and 28% or 815 kilometers a double track. Of the total exploitation length of route, 43% or 1,272 kilometers are electrified at 3 kV DC. About 38% of the length of the railway routes, or 1,126 kilometers, are equipped with full automatic blocks, and 16% or 479 kilometers are equipped with centralized dispatches. The railways has 176 stations, 2 of which, Bilahari and Shevan, are completely automated. 12 stations have container courts with adapted mechanisms and machines. 3 stations, Kel, Ganja and Kirdalin, are able to supply high cargo containers. In freight traffic, the exportation of oil from the oil wells from Baku at the Caspian Sea to the Georgian port of Batumi at the Black Sea forms an important share of the rail transport in Azerbaijan. The freight market share of the Azerbaijan State Railway was 21% in 1999. The freight market share of the railways are also expected to rise rapidly, with completion of the Kars-Tbilisi-Baku railway. Much of the rail track and rolling stock is in need of repair or replacement. The national network has no high-speed lines and is not served by high-speed trains. Total 2,932 kilometers. Country comparison to the world. Broad gauge 1,520 mm gauge railway links with adjacent countries. Russia, yes, 1,520 mm gauge. Georgia, yes, 1,520 mm gauge, also new 1,435 mm standard gauge link to Turkey. Iran, yes, break of gauge 1,520 mm to 1,435 mm. Turkey, no, break of gauge 1,520 mm, also new 1,435 mm standard gauge via Georgia. Armenia, yes, 1,520 mm gauge, closed for political reasons. Kars-Tbilisi-Baku Railway Project Timeline 2007. On February 7, 2007, an agreement was signed for the Kars-Tbilisi-Baku Railway. On September 12, 2007, Musa Panahov, the Deputy Minister of Transport of Azerbaijan, announces that construction on the Baku-Tbilisi-Kars Railway will begin in October. Construction is budgeted at $200 million, of which $50 million has been allocated from the State Oil Fund of Azerbaijan. On November 21, 2007, the presidents of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili, and Turkey, Abdullah Gül, inaugurated the construction of the railroad at a groundbreaking ceremony at the Marada Junction south of Tbilisi, and the first rails were planned to be laid in April 2008. The Russian-Georgian Ossetian conflict and environmental problems delayed the project. which was originally to be completed by 2010 but is now scheduled for completion by 2012. Metro system. Currently the only metro system in Azerbaijan is the Baku Metro, located in Baku, the country's capital. New plans to open metro systems in the most populated and developed cities of Azerbaijan were unveiled. Samgate, Nakhchivan and Ganja all plan to have subway systems in the future. Roadways. There are about 25,000 kilometers of roads in Azerbaijan, serving domestic cargo traffic and giving access to international main highways. Highways are mostly in fair condition and need an upgrade to international standards in a view to accommodate growing transit traffic. Main and rural roads are in poor condition and in urgent need of rehabilitation and maintenance. The total vehicle fleet in Azerbaijan was about 517,000 in 2004, with about 49 private passenger cars per 1,000 inhabitants, which is quite low compared to European benchmarks but rapidly increasing due to the fast economic growth. Road transport accounted for 54% of all freight in 2003, up from about 48% in 1999. International highways. Main highways carrying international traffic are the Baku-Alat-Ganja-Kazakh-Georgian border corridor with a length of 503 kilometers and the so-called north-south transport corridor that stretches out from the Russian to the Iranian border along 521 kilometers. Road connections are disrupted with Armenia because of the unresolved conflict regarding the possession of the Nagorno-Karabakh. Travel between mainland and the detached exclave of Nakhchivan is made by air by road through Iran. Nakhchivan has a 9-kilometer strategic border with Turkey. Total 59,142 kilometers. Country comparison to the world. Paved 29,210 kilometers. Unpaved 29,931 kilometers. Pipelines. Baku is the center of a major oil and gas producing region, and major long-distance pipelines radiate from the region's oil fields to all neighboring areas. Pipelines are generally high-capacity lines and have diameters of either 1,020 or 1,220 millimeters. The main petroleum pipeline was completed in 2005 under American pressure to limit Russian and Iranian influence in the area. It runs from Baku via Tbilisi to Ceyhan in Turkey, therefore the acronym BTC pipeline. It made partly obsolete the old Soviet pipeline pumping crude oil from the onshore and offshore Caspian fields near Baku west across Azerbaijan and Georgia to the port of Batumi, where the oil is either exported in its crude form or processed at Batumi's refinery. Two natural gas lines parallel the old petroleum line as far as Tbilisi, where they turn north across the Caucasus Mountains to join the grid of natural gas pipelines that supply cities throughout Russia and Eastern Europe. Condensate 89 kilometers, gas 3,890 kilometers, oil 2,446 kilometers. Ports and harbors, sea and water cargo transportation have vital importance for Azerbaijan, especially in regions where road and rail connections are disputed. Azerbaijan has direct maritime connections only with other Caspian littoral states. However, the Volga-Don Canal provides a maritime access to the high seas. The main activity is transport of cargo, mainly of oil and oil products. Shipping regions are Caspian, Black, Mediterranean and Marmara seas. The main shipping company owns 72 ships, 37 of which are tankers. Baku International Marine Trade Port is the largest port on the Caspian Sea. Its ferry terminal underwent a major reconstruction supported by a $16.2 million loan from EBRD. It is now able to handle 30 million tons of freight a year. The Caspian Sea provides vital transport links with other countries and is being used to ship oil until various pipeline projects are completed. In 2014, Azerbaijan stated it would seek to ease transportation on the Caspian Sea due to increased demand by its neighboring states. On June 4, 2004, the Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Azerbaijan established the Maritime Administration as the regulatory authority in maritime transport. Its functions include participating in the formulation of state policy, regulating transport demand of goods and passengers and for other types of maritime transport services, as well as implementing state programs, concepts and projects for the development of maritime transport. Ports and harbors: Baku, Lenkoran, Dubandi. Merchant Marine. Total 90 ships. Country comparison to the world. Ships by type registered in other countries. 2. Airports. There are regular flights between Azerbaijan and former Soviet countries: UK, Germany, France, Austria, Italy, Israel, Iran, Turkey, UAE, United States, China, Georgia, and has a cargo flights in UAE, Turkey, Luxembourg, Germany, China, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The national airline is Azerbaijan Airlines. There are 5 international airports located in Baku: Ganja, Nakhchivan, Lenkoran, Zaqatala. Heydar Aliyev International Airport in Baku reopened in 1999 after a $64 million upgrading and extension financed by Turkish company Enka. The airport can now handle 1,600 passengers an hour. The new runways are also able to serve jumbo jets. The complete overhaul of the international airport in Nakhchivan has been completed in May 2004. The $32 million reconstruction project of Ganja Airport has been launched by the government and was completed by mid-2006. In 2008, 2 more airports were opened in Azerbaijan. The Lankaran International Airport is located in southern part of Azerbaijan. Zaqatala Airport is in the northwest of Azerbaijan territory. Airports: 37 country comparison to the world. Airports with paved runways. Total over 3,047 meters, 2,438 to 3,047 meters, 1,524 to 2,437 meters, 914 to 1,523 meters, under 914 meters. 3 airports with unpaved runways. Total 914 to 1,523 meters, under 914 meters. 1. Heliports. Total 1.